10 minutes to try to go around the world and dive right into substance to kick off our day. This is not easy. It's a challenging geopolitical environment, and I need to start with things that have gotten worse since we all convened and saw each other last year. We've got three major wars going on in the world right now. We've got the Russians versus Ukraine, and by proxy, increasingly NATO. We have Israel versus Hamas, and increasingly expansive, the axis of so-called resistance. And then, of course, we have the Americans versus the Americans. And all three of those conflicts are getting worse. All three of those conflicts in this environment do not have adequate gating mechanisms or resilience so that we can see in the near term, in the foreseeable future, an outcome that would make us feel, oh, we've hit bottom, we can finally start rebuilding. None of those three. So I need to at least go through them briefly before we can talk about some of the places that look a little bit better. First, on Russia today, we all know that just in the last weeks, we are now on a path to NATO providing weapons that are directly targeting Russia, troops on the ground of NATO providing training for Ukrainians, and soon also Russian frozen assets being essentially seized to help pay for Ukrainian military support that will be used against Russia. I'm not suggesting any of those were bad decisions. I'm suggesting we are in a materially more dangerous place than we were a year ago. Furthermore, Russia's closest allies, without any question, military allies, are Iran and North Korea. Not two countries I'd want to bet a lot on going forward, but chaos actors who assertively benefit from destruction of a U.S.-led, multilateral, rule of law, global order. You cannot look at this environment and tell me you are comfortable about where we are likely to be in another 6, 12 months. The tail risks are significant. Number two, in the Middle East. There wasn't that war going on when we met together last year. Now there is, with no end in sight. And the single thing that has been most accomplished in the last 8 months is that the Israeli people, not just the war cabinet, which is falling apart, not just the Israeli coalition, which is very narrow, but pretty much the entire Israeli population believes that Hamas must be fully destroyed. That the war cannot end until all of the military operatives and the leadership have been removed and can't come back. And the Palestinians, after, of course, the worst violence been perpetrated against Israel since the Holocaust, on October 7th, and the Palestinians feel like a genocide and ethnic cleansing is being perpetrated against them for the last 7+ months. And their willingness to support Hamas-type solutions, which believe that Israel does not have the right to exist as a Jewish state, are at unprecedented highs. And so as a consequence, you hear from the Americans and others that the level of radicalism that is going to be coming from the Palestinians and those that support them, including on our shores, is growing in a generational way. And then in the United States, and none of us want to have this election, right? I mean, we have two people running that should not be running. We have one who has had 34 convictions, and those are for the least serious crimes that he's been indicted for. And we have another that we think is going to make it till November, right? That is a challenge. And the one thing that the Americans agree on politically is that the other team is trying to destroy American democracy. Not sustainable long term. The trajectory is very negative, right? And on top of all three of those things, the Oilers are down 2-0. I'm told they're playing better. But this is not the geopolitical environment I wanted to be welcoming you to today for the U.S.-Canada summit. So, okay, that's half of my time. What am I going to do with the other half? Say a couple positive things. Number one, there are lots and lots of other elections out there this year. And they actually show that democracy, with the exception of the U.S., is actually very robust right now. we can have free and fair elections that are seen as legitimate by everybody in the country, in India, in the European Union, in Mexico, in South Africa. I mean, pretty much in Indonesia, everywhere, right? So it's not like this is a crisis of democracy, of democratic systems globally. That is not what we're actually seeing. And we should remember that, because the United States needs friends and has far more robust friends among democracies all over the world, starting, of course, critically right here. And that's not something that is suddenly failing and facing the kind of existential identity crisis that the Americans are experiencing right now. Number two, globalization. It's not falling apart. And it's not just a hangover from those decades of getting it right. If you look at the biggest new technological transformations in the world, you've got artificial intelligence, which is dominated by the United States. You've got transition energy, electric vehicles, critical mineral supply chain dominated by the Chinese. Now, if the Americans decide that U.S. citizens are not allowed to drive efficient electric vehicles, that's okay. There are enough Teslas for everybody. But everyone else in the world is going to be working with China around EVs. If the Chinese decide that they are not going to allow their own citizens to have access to AI that is world-class because it's dangerous to the Communist Party, because they're the only ones that can officially hallucinate, they can do that, right? But the rest of the world is going to work with the United States. We are not heading to Cold War here. We are heading to a challenging U.S.-China relationship, which is strategically decoupling, but the rest of the world does not want a Cold War. They are going to engage with everyone economically, and that maintains a level of stability. And finally, we are also looking at a U.S.-Canada relationship. We had a dinner last night with a lot of attendees, and it was geopolitically the most enthusiastic place that I have been all year. And I'm not making that up. I'm not just saying that for your benefit. I was a little taken aback by it. I was a little surprised. And it's because, yes, the U.S.-Canada relationship is strong and it's stable and it's friendly. And there was a poll 3 months ago I saw that 84% of Americans actually like and trust Canadians. It's as high as any country in the world. It's tied with Japan, because the Americans don't know the Japanese very well. But in the case of Canada, they actually like each other, right? Why is that? It's because this relationship is no longer just nice to have. It's increasingly strategically essential. And so that is why we're here. In an environment that is uncertain and volatile and dangerous, and where we have a lot of questions, not only do we not have the answers to, but we fear, and we're right, that some of those answers are not going to be things we like to hear. In that environment, we know that we have to invest more to ensure that this relationship works, that it's robust, that we look after each other, we help each other, and we also tell each other when we're screwing up a bit. And we admit to you that we've got a little dirty laundry. We didn't clean up on aisle 7 over the last bit, right? That's what this is all about. That's why I'm so proud to be here with my friend and partner, Daryl. I feel like in 2 years, we've moved this thing about as fast as AI has been moving. There's a trajectory on the U.S.-Canada relationship and summit is really high. I welcome all of you today. I ask you, please, be as robust, as engaged as you possibly can. Men, feel free to take off your ties. Ladies, flats, perfectly fine. I mean, this is a comfortable working meeting. But be together, be honest, be authentic, and have a great time. So thank you all very, very much.